Hello, hello, hello. I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome to Podcasting 101 with Simona Nicole. For those who don't know, my name is Simona and I'm the host of the Happiness Happens podcast. I have had this show for about a year and a half now, and I've learned a few things along the way, which is why I want to come on here and start this new series and share them with you. In this Podcasting 101 series, you're going to learn all about how to launch your podcast, how to grow your podcast, how to market your podcast, and really how to make an impact with your podcast. So I'm super excited to bring you this series. I hope you're just as excited. If you do have any questions along the way, just drop them in the comments or send me a DM. My DMs are always open, and I'm excited to help you launch and grow your show. I wanted to start off by talking about 3 different things that I think are so foundational in terms of starting a podcast. These are the 3 things that you must have before even launching your podcast, okay? So if you already launched, it's okay. You likely have some of these things, but we're gonna go into depth in it anyways. The first thing that I wanted to touch on is you need to have an idea with a unique spin. Every topic itself isn't necessarily unique. The thing that you talk about isn't necessarily unique. Unfortunately, that's the reality. And so many people can have a podcast about a specific topic. My podcast is about mindset. How many podcasts do you know and shows do you know that talk about mindset? The difference is, and what creates a really unique show, a unique experience for your listeners, and really helps you grow your audience and really helps you make that connection, is the unique spin that you bring to it. What's that unique thing that you bring and only you can bring to your show and to your topic? Everything that you do, you're gonna do it differently. You're gonna do it differently than anybody else because it's you. So even though somebody else may have had the idea or somebody else has a podcast and something that you wanna do, the differentiating factor is always going to be you. So think about what's the unique way that you can host your show, and how can you do it in a way that's different than anybody else? And what is that unique flavor that you're injecting into your podcast every single week in every single episode? My second point that I wanted to hit was having a targeted niche market that has a problem that only you can solve and only your content can solve. This is so important. It's kind of similar to how we do things on Instagram, how we do things on social media, how we connect with our clients, how we connect with our audiences. It has everything to do with who our niche market is, who is our ideal client. And it's no different when you have a podcast either. You want your show to be in a response to something specific. You want your show to serve a purpose. You really want your show to be filling that gap between conversations that need to be happening, because that becomes the purpose of your show, right? The purpose of your show becomes that gap filler in the conversation that needs to happen, and it's delivered by you in the only way that it can be delivered, by you. When you think about this and sort of have this in mind, what is that unique thing and that unique problem that only your show can solve? So think about that as well when you're creating and brainstorming your podcast. Every show is created for a specific market. Every podcast is created with a specific idea and end result in mind. And you're addressing that specific problem, which is really important. So getting really clear on what your niche looks like and who your listeners are is so key. Who are the types of people that are listening to your show? What do these people absolutely love? What do they love about your show? But also, what do they love about you? If they've been following you, what is it that is that unique factor that you have that your audience loves? And really, ultimately, it's thinking about what value does your show bring to the people who are listening to it. You're asking people to spend their time listening and learning from you. What is the value that you're providing them? And how is that different than somebody else? What is it on a daily basis that they get from your show that they can't get anywhere else? And ultimately, this becomes the foundation of what makes your show so successful and what makes people come back over and over and over again. And that's when you get that growth. The last point that I wanted to hit, this point I feel like is kind of obvious, but also something that isn't always present, and it's passion. You need to have passion for what it is you're talking about. You need to have passion for what it is that you're delivering. I truly believe that you cannot do anything without passion. If you're not passionate about it, you're not going to do it. That's when the excuses come in. That's when it gets too hard. That's when it gets too confusing. That's when, we don't know how to do the next step. It's because we're out of alignment with the passion that brought us there in the first place. So when you start and when you run your podcast, you need to remember your passion and you need to remember your why every single day. And why do I say this? Because the number one mistake that most people make when they start a podcast is launching a show, putting everything together, putting out 3 episodes, and realizing how much work and how much love and how much dedication it actually takes to be running your podcast, and then they forget about it. And what happens with that is, you end up putting it on the back burner because you don't know how much time it actually takes, to be creating your podcast, especially if you're doing it all by yourself, especially if you're doing all the editing, and especially if you're doing all the marketing. One day maybe you get to that place where somebody else can do it for you, but likely for most people, for a very long time, you're the one who's going to be doing everything. So always making sure that passion is very, very, very present, because that is what is going to guide you through every single time and really keep you going when things get hard. Consistency in relation to passion is so key in launching and growing your show, and you really need to show up for your audience, and you always need to be ready to provide that incredible, life-changing, valuable content. And that's the content that that they're craving. So regardless what industry you're in, regardless of what niche market you're in, you're knowing that you're always delivering on the problem that they're facing. You're giving them a solution to their problem, and you're providing tremendous value at the same time. So I really think that all 3 of these things are so important. They are the basis of how your show is built, and in turn, how your show grows, how your listeners become attracted to you. There's so much that goes into it, so I'm very excited to dive in on this new series. If you have any questions, if you have anything you'd like me to answer, please drop them in the comments now. If you want anything addressed in a future video, just let me know. We're going to be covering every single topic, from equipment to setting up your podcast, the things that you need to know before setting up your podcast, and marketing, creating graphics, where does your show get hosted, all of these different things, growing your audience. So be sure to stay tuned. Be sure to come back every single week, and be sure to let me know any questions you have, anything that you want answered. Leave it in the comments. I'm so excited to hear from you, and I'm also excited to hear how you enjoyed this first episode. Did you find it valuable? Did you find it helpful? Let me know. Let me know what you want more of. Let me know what you want less of. I'm very excited to continue on this series. So thank you so much for tuning in to Podcasting 101 with Simona Nicole. Super stoked to keep this going. I hope you have an absolutely beautiful week wherever you are in the world. And remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.